There is a place in the Atlantic Ocean that the world has spent decades calling cursed. A place associated with vanished ships, missing aircraft, strange compass readings, and stories that sound more like science fiction than geography. But there is one part of the story the legend rarely tells you. People live here. They build homes, raise families, go to work, collect rainwater, ride scooters, and return home at the end of the day. For generations, people have looked at the same ocean that inspired stories of disappearance and decided to call the land beside it home. So how did they survive here? And what does the real Bermuda tell us about the place the world knows as the Bermuda Triangle? First, there is an important fact. The Bermuda Triangle is not an officially defined geographic region. There is no government boundary around it, and its exact shape changes depending on who draws the map. The popular version is usually described as a rough triangle between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. The legend became famous in the 20th century, but ships had already been crossing these waters for centuries. And this is not an ordinary stretch of ocean. The region can experience powerful storms, strong currents, shallow reefs, and difficult navigation. Before GPS, radar, satellites, and modern weather forecasting, these conditions could turn a normal voyage into a disaster. A storm could arrive quickly, a current could carry debris far from the original wreck, and a navigation mistake could become impossible to correct once land disappeared below the horizon. None of this requires a supernatural explanation. But Bermuda itself has a remarkable history. The islands lie far out in the North Atlantic, surrounded by ocean and separated from major continental landmasses. Yet this isolated place became home to a permanent society. One of the most important moments happened in 1609. An English ship called the Sea Venture was sailing toward Virginia when a powerful hurricane separated it from the rest of the fleet. The ship was badly damaged. Then the crew spotted Bermuda. To save the people aboard, the vessel was deliberately driven onto a reef. The ship was wrecked, but the people survived. Around 150 people reached the islands. They stayed for months, salvaged materials, and built new ships. Eventually, they continued toward Jamestown. But their accident had already changed Bermuda's history. The wreck of the Sea Venture became a crucial event in the beginning of permanent English settlement. And this is where the Bermuda story becomes especially interesting. The same environment that could destroy ships also forced people to become extremely good at adapting. Bermuda has hundreds of documented and estimated shipwreck sites. But these wrecks are not evidence of a supernatural force. They are evidence of an island surrounded by reefs, exposed to storms, currents, and centuries of maritime traffic. Today, underwater archaeology treats many of these wrecks as historical archives. They reveal how people traveled, what they carried, and how maritime life changed over time. But perhaps the clearest example of Bermuda's ability to adapt is found on its rooftops. Traditional Bermuda houses have distinctive white stepped roofs. They are not simply decorative. The roofs are designed to collect rainwater. Rain falls onto the stepped surface, moves through channels, and is directed into storage tanks beneath the house. For an island with limited natural freshwater resources, this is essential. The ocean may surround Bermuda, but the water people can safely drink is limited. So the island learned to capture what falls from the sky. Rainwater harvesting has been part of Bermuda's life for centuries, and building regulations continue to protect the system. The roof is not just part of the house, it is part of the water supply, and the same principle appears everywhere. Land is limited. Roads are narrow. Many everyday goods must arrive by sea or air. Food, medicine, construction materials, and countless other products cannot simply be produced in unlimited quantities on a tiny island. So survival depends on careful planning. Transportation is another example. Bermuda has historically maintained strict controls on private automobiles. The Motor Car Act of 1951 created a system very different from the one found in most wealthy countries. The rules have changed over time, including the introduction of regulated minicars for visitors.
It is here.
But the basic problem has remained the same. There is only so much space. Bermuda could not simply build wider roads or keep adding cars forever. So instead of overpowering the environment, the island adapted its rules to it. And this changes the way we should look at the Bermuda Triangle. For someone living in Bermuda, the ocean is not a mysterious wall surrounding a cursed island. It is part of everyday life. It is transportation. It is work. It is recreation. It is history. And sometimes, it is danger. The famous compass stories also have a more complicated explanation than the legend suggests. Christopher Columbus recorded unusual compass observations during his voyages in the region. But magnetic compasses do not always point directly toward geographic north. Magnetic declination changes depending on location and time. For sailors without modern navigation technology, these differences could become important. Combine that with storms, currents, poor visibility, reefs, and human error, and a voyage could become extremely dangerous without requiring anything supernatural. And this may be the most important distinction in the entire Bermuda Triangle story. A mystery is not automatically evidence of a supernatural event. Some individual disappearances remain unresolved. But an unresolved case does not prove that the entire region has mysterious powers. The legend simply became larger than the evidence. And behind that legend is a much more fascinating human story. The Sea Venture arrived because of a hurricane. Its wreck could have been nothing more than another maritime tragedy. Instead, its survivors adapted. They built new ships. People returned. A settlement developed. And over the centuries, Bermuda learned how to collect rainwater, manage limited land, regulate transportation, navigate dangerous waters, and live with storms. The same ocean that made Bermuda famous for mystery became part of everyday life. That is the real twist. The most fascinating question about the Bermuda Triangle may not be why ships disappeared. It may be why people stayed. Why did generations of families choose to build their lives on a small island surrounded by an ocean the rest of the world learned to fear? The answer is much simpler than the legend. They adapted. They learned the island's limits, and then they built a society around them. So the next time you see the Bermuda Triangle drawn as a dark triangle on a map, remember what that picture leaves outside the frame. There is a real place there. Real houses, real roads, real reefs, real shipwrecks, and real people who wake up every morning beside the same ocean that the rest of the world learned to fear. For them, the Bermuda Triangle is not the end of the map. It is home.